Hello and welcome to the Cutie Art Crusaders, episode 58 for August 13th, 2013. Welcome back, guys. Last week was our derpy episode. It was quite fun, and this week we've got a really interesting lineup, to say the least, for a couple of reasons. First of all, my name is Mario Plasma. I'm the organizer and this week's editor of the podcast, and today I'm joined by...
Can you smell that? It's the smell of victory, and that's because introducing for the second time, Man Shower.
Mahower, I'm back, and I don't have a specific job, but I'm definitely here.
And that's literally it. It's just, I mean, when it comes down to the podcast crew, it's just me and Mahower this week. Unfortunately, Pinkie Dash, he didn't get much sleep. He's feeling really sick, so he decided to sit this one out. I asked Mahower to come back on. Because we had a lot of fun with you last week, Mahower, when you guys were at BronyCon. So you know, I asked you to come on here, but also because you had experience with our special guest this week. You came to me and you said that you knew a lot about these people, so I thought I'd bring you on because it would be a little bit difficult for me to do an interview by myself.
No problem. Making me sound like a stalker.
No, you at least you know something about it. That's the thing, right? Yeah, at least you know something about it. So this is going to be an interesting episode because this is the first time that there's ever been just one technical CAC member on the podcast. But so that'll be interesting. But this week's guest, which I was alluding to before, is a group of guys from My Little Investigations, which is a game that these guys are making. And today we have Zeus Assassin, who is the team coordinator, game designer, case designer, and writer. Say hi.
Hello there.
And we also have Warpout, who is the field character artist.
Why, hello.
So thank you guys for coming on. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having us.
So, I mean, this is going to be a strange interview because this is one of the few interviews that we've gotten requested from a friend of ours, Pony Tim, who we met at Everfree Northwest. He's the guy who helped us set up a bunch of our interviews with some of the voice actors and other things like that. He's the guy who set up all that kind of stuff, and he was a great help at Everfree Northwest, and he came up to us, I think before and after, just kind of wondering if it was possible to have this kind of interview, and I'm really excited because your MLI game has reminded me of my childhood when I used to play Phoenix Wright games all the time.
Oh, wow, really? That's very interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like it totally. I know you guys have taken some inspirations from it. And before I get ahead of myself, why don't you guys? I mean, I've introduced you a little bit. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves formally and talk about a little bit about what you do with the game?
Warpout, want to go first?
No, you go first.
Alrighty, so as you know, I am Zeus Assassin, and I've pretty much been on this project since August of 2011. Pretty much saw every little facet of this project ever since its early programming days to recruiting the team to now, at this point, this close to release. And I'm really happy to be here and talk more about this game with you guys.
Cool. And Warpout, we also have you on today.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm Warpout. And I, first when I started, I was only here for the field character art. So basically the ponies that you see moving on screen while not in dialogue. That was all my job. But since the project, the longer we were on the project, the more I kind of did more besides that. I also helped a bit on the dialogue and stuff. So I'm basically an all-around artist.
So you also animated the intro screen, which is really nice.
I animated it, but I didn't draw it. It was done by Rotakura.
Who is our cutscene artist?
Yeah. He did the paint style and gutted it all up into pieces, and I animated it.
So, for those people out there, I mean, we are an art show, so even though there's a huge crossover between bronies and gamers, for those people out there, can you just describe what My Little Investigations is to anyone who might not have heard about it?
So, My Little Investigations is basically our take on, well, not our take, but it's a game inspired by Ace Attorney Investigation, so it's going to have the same style gameplay as that game, but it's pretty much set entirely in the realm of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. And the lead in this game is Twilight Sparkle, and she'll be investigating a variety of cases, none of them including murder, because we're trying to stay as close as show can and acceptableness as possible. And as of now, we currently have 4 cases planned in various stages, and players will be following Twilight in her adventures throughout Equestria, solving cases on various degrees.
Cool. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Phoenix Wright was an old Game Boy Advance and DS game. It was a series, Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, where you were basically a defense attorney going around trying to see what actually happened in certain cases where your clients would be accused of things and picking up clues and having a court investigation. And it was a really interesting concept, a very frustrating game, let me tell you, but also a lot of fun. I mean, you guys must have really been inspired by those games.
Oh, I love the series. I've been playing it since its DS release back in, I believe, 06 or 05, something like that. And I played every single game that's been localized, and it's definitely had a huge influence on this project.
That's kind of shameful for me to say, but when I started this project, I didn't play a single Ace Attorney game. When I got more into it, I started playing Investigations, Miles Edgeworth, but that's the only game I played so far. But I really liked it. So.
Right. Well, I know Mahower.
Yeah.
you can judge as much as you want to, but it's funny because as I was talking to Mahower the other day, he'd played My Little Investigations and he was really into it, but he'd never actually played any of the Ace Attorney series.
I was into the genre, but I never actually went and played it because I didn't have the system. But yesterday I acquired the game and played it, and I'm not too far in, but I'm really enjoying it so far, and I definitely see all the crossover between it. I can't wait until I can play the full MLI game. Pretty excited.
So, in terms of just quick little information out of the way, because we do want to talk about art. We are an art show, so we do want to talk a little bit about the art behind the game, what it's like being an artist in a video game. But we do want to get kind of the general information again for those who don't really know that much about the game. So this one was particularly inspired, I noticed, by Ace Attorney Investigations, which is one of the later games, because in this game you walk around picking up clues, right?
Right.
Whereas in the previous games it wasn't quite like that.
No, it was more of a pixel hunt, as I like to call them, where you have to go from screen to screen and find the pieces of evidence. There was no gimmicks or logic involved. It was just pretty much point A to point B. Try not to get lost. Mm-hmm. And Investigations changed that formula with its confrontation system and its examining evidence in the field and combining evidence and doing what a lot of point-and-click adventures did before Ace Attorney. And seeing the game do that was really refreshing, and hence why we decided to put that formula into My Little Investigations.
Mm-hmm. So there's 2 aspects to a game like this, which again, if people haven't played the games before, they wouldn't know about this. But you first have the investigation, which is kind of walking around the crime scene, talking to witnesses and things like that, gathering evidence, and then there's the court scene. So those are the 2 different aspects. Are you going to have anything like that from the Phoenix Wright games, or what's going to be the finished product? What's going to kind of be the stages? And can you describe those stages a little bit?
Yeah, sure. There's primarily 3 main stages in My Little Investigation. So the first is what you described, which is the investigation portion. Twilight goes from crime scene to crime scene, or just places in the locations he's in which in case 1 that would be Ponyville. So she finds clues, she connects them together, she talks to ponies, and she gathers information. Once she's gathered enough, there'll be points in the case where you'll have to break a hidden topic, which is usually marked by a locked keychain or something. And then, or if it's not locked, you'll have to interrogate that pony or witness for more information, which is our second phase, interrogations. So it's very, very much like the cross-examinations from the Ace Attorney series. You're able to press the witness for more information. You're able to present evidence to contradicting statements. But the good thing about this is unlike previous games, since it's not that important to the plot yet, and you don't know if you have all the evidence you need, You can exit the interrogation anytime and gather more clues. And when you're ready, you can come back and try it again. So that's the second phase. The third phase is known as confrontations, and that's basically where all the drama in a case accumulates and where you will finally make a big lead in the case or catch the villain. So that's pretty much an extended version of interrogations. You're stuck there until you finish it. And let me go back. That's also where we bring back the health system, where if you get too many wrong answers in a row, you'll be forced to restart the confrontation from the very beginning, or at a checkpoint, depending on how long it is. And with that, that's basically our 3 main stages of the game. So investigations, interrogations, and confrontations all make up our formula for Milo investigations. Sorry that was a bit long-winded.
No, that's fine. I mean, if you've ever watched the show before, we encourage long-winded things because we love to hear from the people who are actually making games or making the art or whatever, because we don't know as much as these people, so we would love to have people who are on talk a lot about what they do and the things that they're involved in.
Great.
So don't worry about rambling. We love that.
Yeah, if you're enthusiastic
Awesome.
about a certain topic, just go as long as you want to. It's all
Absolutely.
interesting things.
Absolutely.
Fine by me.
So will there be like a particular, I mean, personally, I haven't played the Miles Edgeworth game, which is one of the later ones, a little bit what your game is a little bit more based on. Will there be an actual court case like we've seen in the earlier ones, or is it a different variation on that?
That's a very good question, and it's something that we discussed quite heavily, quite in the very beginnings of the project, so August of 2011 to December 2011. And after a lot of discussion, we just decided that courts in Equestria don't quite make sense, and not trying to bash an excellent series like Turnabout Storm, which made it happen, but that's a crossover, and we're trying to emulate the show's canon, the show's style as much as we can. Give pretty much not a slice of life experience, but just an experience in Equestria that all players can enjoy. So there'll be no courts, as far as we know, and yeah, all the action will take place in the fields, but trust me that even though there won't be any courts, things will get quite dramatic for our protagonists and the witnesses involved.
And like you said, it'll have the same kind of feel. You'll still have the health. You'll still have a lot of things like that, which makes it a little more difficult. And you'll still have the one-on-one.
Yes.
Yeah, even though it's not in a court, you brought a lot of the same mechanics out, so it's okay.
Yeah. So I understand that. Well, I don't know if we should be discussing spoilers, but in Miles Edgeworth, that game, the investigation game, there was a small court sequence, but it was mostly the setting, not exactly the actual court sequence. So I know that they managed to pull it off, but again, if it does occur to us that a court makes sense, then we might pursue it for a very unique case. But as of now, there is no planned court sequence for this game.
Right. You've got a lot of throwbacks to the original series, but it's not. It's something that is not necessary to put in place. Especially like you don't want to put something in place just because it was in the other game. You know, you want to make your own game and you want to make it make sense.
Exactly. Well said.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about the art, because Warpite, you've been sitting here very patiently talking about it. So you mentioned that you're kind of an overall artist. You know, you just kind of like a general, does a lot of different things from field to a little bit of the cutscene to a little bit of the dialogue, that kind of stuff. Again, for people who don't know, can you describe the different types of art that are going to be in the game and how they're used?
Sure. Well, first we have the world, which we have to run around in, so we have the backgrounds. Then we have, the main game is split up in like, 2 art settings. One is like the dialogue between 2 ponies, and one is in the fields. So we have the dialogue art, which is sort of a medium shot, where the ponies just talk to each other and express themselves through emotional facial expressions. And then we have in the field, where you can gather evidence and everything. You can run around, and you have the ponies more in a... it's a 45-degree orthographic view, like the original Miles Edgeworth. And you have those run around in that view, which is really hard to do, actually.
Yeah, I bet, especially because you have no references.
Yeah,
for it,
that was the main problem with starting on this project. Like I said, I didn't play any Ace Attorney games before I started on the project. So the first thing I did was make Twilight run to the left in a normal view, like from the side. And then it told me that it was going to be like this a degree or this angle, like in the normal game. And I was like, no, I have to change everything now. And so you basically have like the dialogue art and the field art. That's the main two things. And then the backgrounds, of course, are very well made, which gives Ponyville its, yeah, you have to run around somewhere, so very important to have. And then, I don't know who decided, but we have this very well made cutscene art, which gives quite the atmosphere. That's about the four main visual arts that we have. So cutscenes, backgrounds, character, field animations, and dialogue art.
Right. And like you said, you mainly work in the field, but you've also helped out with the dialogue and the animation of the cutscenes.
Yeah. So the field was what I first applied for. But we noticed that I used to be a professional animator, so when it came down to animation, some questions were raised, and I happily helped people out when it came to animation, and that like got me working on other things beside field animation.
I was curious, like making art like no strings attached by yourself is probably pretty different than making art for a video game. So like, is there like any restrictions to that or any major differences? Like, I imagine there's some kind of like dates that things need to be done. Like, do you think that hinders anything?
Well, I didn't really have a lot of experience in game design animations, so it isn't that different, except for in these part of games you have loops, which as animators would know, they not always, but are mostly more difficult to do, because in a normal animation clip or a shot, you have the animation one time, and then it's gone. And in a loop, you see the same animation like 20 times or 30 times. And if there's one little mistake, you tend to see it after 20 times. So it has to be quite perfect.
And with loops especially, when you see some animation, for example, just a couple weeks ago we had Children of the Night on, those animators, and they've got quite extravagant poses that they would strike, or a character can start in one shot on somewhere and be completely different in a completely different pose by the end, and that's okay because they can just cut away. But in games, you can't really cut away, right?
True.
So your loops have to be a little bit more, if you think of loops as the base position and the extremes, then the extremes have to be kind of in the middle with something coming back down, whereas in a lot of animation you might have the extremes at the beginning or the end.
Yeah, but then on the other hand you have, in normal animation you have acting, and in loops you don't really have to act, so it tends to make the person or pony stay on the same spot, I guess. When you're acting, you have like an unwritten rule in character animation when you're acting is that your character has to move somewhere or towards something, and you don't have that in loops, so it isn't really that big of a deal that they don't move somewhere.
Right. So there's pros and cons to both.
Yeah, true.
But I guess it would be an interesting thing to be a part of, because you wouldn't usually get experience doing things like that when you're just doing regular animation, right?
No, absolutely not. And the funny thing is, you mentioned Children of the Night, and the Lionheart is his name, I guess. Yeah, Lionheart.
Yep.
His job, I don't know if he still does it, was game animations, right?
Yeah, no, that's what his day job is doing game animations. Yeah. That's what a lot of artists do. We've had a wide variety of artists on this show that we've interviewed, and I must have been like at least like 5 or 10 of them when we talked to them say, oh yeah, during my day job, I go and I animate or I do art or concept art for games. It seems like games are a really big outlet for artists nowadays.
And he's doing this crazy animation, and my job used to be normal animation, and I'm starting game animation.
Mm-hmm. So you guys are kind of doing the opposite.
Yeah.
right there.
Well, I'm still doing like my hobby animations, but
right. But it's a little bit different now that you're kind of spending a lot of time on this project.
True.
Or at least it's not a tremendous amount of time. I remember Zeus was talking to us a little bit about how you guys are pretty far ahead in terms of the art that you're doing. So you guys are doing case 2 now, right?
Basically.
Yeah, I think all the art for case 1 is done.
It's been done, but yeah.
It just comes down to the programming and the coordinating now, right?
Yes, a lot of polishing, a lot of sound issues we got to work out, but we're getting there. We are getting there.
So talking a little bit about sound now that you brought it up, you've got a lot of different sounds that are quite distinctive for those who have played the Phoenix Wright games. So are you guys planning on keeping a lot of those sounds as an homage, or are those placeholders, or what's going to happen with that?
Those sounds that you heard in earlier demos and stuff, they were all placeholders. One of our main goals for Mindful Investigations was pretty much to have everything other than character concepts and personalities be original. So all of our sound effects have been created by our wonderful sound engineer Xtrav. All of the music tracks are original and suited for this game, created by Trot Pilgrim. And fans should expect to see pretty much new stuff for this game.
Okay. That's a really cool thing, because I know both Mahaur and I, when we were listening to the demo, the sound effects were something that obviously reminded us of the old games, but I was a little bit iffy about, because I wasn't sure if you guys were going to come up with kind of your own things. But now that you are, it sounds really great, because I love seeing original takes on certain concepts. Like you were saying before, you don't want to create a game just for the sake of making it like the older games,
Right. Everything we have in our game serves a purpose. Like with any good story, any good product, it's not just there to be in there.
Right. It's not just there because it was there in the past.
Yep.
That's a great way to design games. Not a lot of people probably know this who watch my show, but I'm actually in school for video game development. And it's not something that they tremendously talk about in the school, perhaps, because the school is mostly just computer science, not really heavily into game development. But in my own personal research, there's a lot of stuff I've gone through, and that's a great tip for anyone out there who's designing games. Just because if you're gonna make, a lot of people who start out with game design want to make an homage to something that they really enjoyed, maybe as a kid. And ponies give people a great opportunity to create those kind of projects, but you have to be careful not to do something just because it was in the older games. So it's great to hear that you guys are kind of looking at the concepts and going, which ones will fit in here, and how can we mold these to fit our own game.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a good philosophy. It's not, let's take Phoenix Wright and put it in Ponyville. Let's take Ponyville, make an investigation genre, and then release our own original game, and it makes me even more excited for it.
The fun part about this is also that not exactly, but you already played the game through Phoenix Wright a bit. So all the ideas and gameplay elements, you tried it out. So if you thought like, I would have done this, or this could be better, we thought about that, and we tried to fix it or improve on it, and I think it made for a better game.
I can think of one quick example just to show what we mean business, is that for interrogations, they're sort of like the Cyclops, if you remember them from Ace Attorney. So, unlike Cyclops, you won't get punished for wrong answers, because A, you're not sure if you have all the evidence you need, and B, that's just going to make your life even more miserable when the game gets even more intense. So, why make the player feel very frustrated? So, we took that away. We saved all the drama, all the suspense, all that stuff for the confrontation system. And that one little tweak, and that was also something that Gab and I discussed quite heavily back in the early days of this project.
Mm-hmm. Well, like you were mentioning, it's a great point to bring up that as fans of the genre and of the previous series, you guys will be making a game that has some of the improvements that people wish to see. It's hard for a lot of games. Some games are, especially nowadays, are very open to feedback and open to consumer suggestions. Like the easiest suggestion that would ever come to mind would be Minecraft. You know, people, they take suggestions all the time, and while they may not implement them, if they see something's wrong, they'll probably fix it. But for bigger game companies, especially with those who are in Japan, it's hard to go, hey, this is what's iffy about your game. When you make the next one, can you fix them? Because it might not exactly get there. But as fans of the games, you can do that yourselves. Kind of craft the quote unquote perfect Phoenix Wright experience in your own game, or at least, you know,
yeah, that's the plan.
The perfect pony interpretation, right?
Right.
So I want to talk a little bit about the voice actresses that you've brought on, because you've got a couple notable names, and just quickly for those who, you know, might not know a couple of these voice actors, you've got people like Brie Faith, who's done a lot of the Pinkie Pie voice acting. You've got Princess Rill, I believe that's how you pronounce it, who's doing Twilight Sparkle. A lot of ones who are very close to the original voice actors and voice actresses that are in the show, which you've decided to add to the game, which is different because in Phoenix Wright, obviously, no one really talks, except for maybe Phoenix Wright when he's yelling, hold it, or objection, but nobody really talks in that game. But you've decided to kind of change that.
Another improvement.
We got the space, why not make it a full dynamic experience? Unlike a little cartridge, we have the whole PC to work with.
Right. So you get that opportunity to do a little bit more with the game. But you do have the option, at least in the demos that we've played, to turn the voices off. Is that for more of an authentic experience?
Yes, like for people who either can't stand the voices or they just want a true or classic Ace Attorney experience, they can. Well, before it was a toggle, now it's a bar. So basically, we have 3 bars: music, sound. Music, SFX, voice clips. So you put the voice clips all the way down to 0, you'll get the bleeps and the bloops from the original game and advance through it that way.
Right.
Quite personally, like, now that I've played the game pretty often, it feels really refreshing and more engaging when the characters are actually talking instead of just bleeps and bloops. But for some people, they think it ruins the immersion, but that's why we have both options. I'm just giving my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I actually haven't played through the demo without the voices on. Does Twilight still yell things like "hold it" if you have the voices off, or is that completely removed as well?
I believe that's not present in the demo, but in the full case, yes, all interjections will be voiced still.
Okay, that's a really cool concept, because that creates again that kind of authentic experience. Which is a good idea. That's kind of what I was thinking of because I was playing with the voices on, and I was wondering, I didn't have the time to play through without the voices, but I was wondering if that was something, because I think it would be cool to have kind of that authentic experience. But you're right, you know, the characters in the story are a little bit more personal, so I guess the voices do make a little more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in Phoenix Wright, a lot of the characters that you have are, you know, you don't really know of them unless you're playing the later games and you've played all the previous ones. And even so, you knew them not through voice.
Right.
Whereas a lot of people would associate a lot of ponies with their voices.
Although they're starting to change that with animated cutscenes coming up in Dual Destinies, but I'm so glad they're keeping that same style where it's not fully voice acted. It's just the typical bleeps and bloops of the interjections, which is fine. That's the style. It works.
So you mentioned before that just for like the first half of the production or whatever, it was a little bit difficult because you were kind of working on your own just through the forums and through Zeus, kind of putting things to the project. But now that you have kind of a Skype group, closer interaction with the other guys, is there more of a team environment? Do you guys collaborate on things or give each other advice, things like that?
Yeah, it's really easy for someone to ask someone else for advice, or if you need a certain art asset, it's really easy to get it, because first you had to post it on the forums, then they had to read it on the forums, and then they had to upload it to somewhere, then they had to send the link on the forums again, and then I had to see it on the forums, and most of them didn't really watch the forums every day. So when you're in a Skype call, it's really easy to just hey, can you give me that piece of asset? And within a day you get what you want, instead of like 2 or 3 days when you had a forum. so it speed things up, and it's all around. It's a much more fun experience because in between work-related subjects, you also get to do silly stuff, and Zeus has the tendency to start like these word games sometimes, just to boost up morale, which is fun. So it really helped a lot, and it's quite fun when you have a lot of art people that know what you're doing and know and you know what they're doing. So it's fun to help out, and you're all working on the same thing, working towards the same thing. So it gives us maybe just a connected bond that drives you. It's really fun to work with all these amazing people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I know, for example, I used to work in the MLP Vector Club, and before, like when I first joined, it was just all done through the DeviantArt website, and it was effective, but it was kind of slow. And then when we introduced a Skype group, it made it a little bit easier to communicate on kind of a daily basis and just give little tidbits that people would see all the time.
Yeah, but you could like easily miss things. They both have their pros and cons.
It's true. There's a pro of becoming a little bit closer with those that you communicate with, right? Because as you talk to them more and more on Skype, you might become more and more friends with them and talk to each other. But Skype can also be a horrible little distraction if you're not careful. I'm not sure if you guys have found that at all, but
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. There's a lot of people sometimes wanting to get my attention, but I do have priorities. Like if a team member needs me rather than a random forumite, which I call people on the forum, then I obviously go to my team member because he has something important to say.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, as you know, one of your job descriptions, quote unquote, is team coordinator, which is close to my heart because I feel like I'm the team coordinator for this bag of cats. So, do you kind of get everyone together and try and give people different jobs? How does that work?
I've always tried to make people busy on the team, so a lot of stuff for Case 1 has been complete for a while about now, so I would be like, I need feedback for this, or I need this and this done for the next case, whatever. Like, I always find something, and I always communicate and see, are you free now? Great. Would you be interested in doing this? But most of the time, I just casually communicate with them every day. I develop relationships, so I get to know them better, and then I know, what's going through their mind, what's happening in their lives, and then from there, I assign, I encourage, and even if it calls for it, I even write small little speeches for everyone to look at. Because there has been times in our process where some team members felt pretty down about something. It happens because, life gets in the way and such. So I've always been that anchor, I think, to keep everyone happy, motivated, going. And so far, I've received no complaints, so I think I'm doing a good job.
That's a really cool thing to see because, and Skype, I would recommend that to everyone. Maybe not Skype in particular. There's many other programs, Mumble or whatever. I know Mahauer uses Trillion and swears by it.
Sponsor.
like you wouldn't believe. But it's good to have a good line of communication, even if you're not necessarily working on the same things at the same time. If anybody's doing a project, you should definitely consider having a little bit more open line of communication, and Skype is an easy, free way to do that.
Totally agree.
Indeed.
So in the beginning, you have Pinkie as the tutorial pony, breaking the fourth wall, telling everybody how to play. But I was curious, is she going to be doing that throughout the entire game, or is at one point she going to put the fourth wall back up and become an actual character involved in cases?
Well, for Case 1, she's pretty much going to stick with that role of being a tutorial character, so...
But you can turn her off if you want to.
Right.
There's an option.
Why would I ever do that?
Well, we had some complaints that...
How dare you?
But yeah,
I guess if you're more experienced, right?
Yeah, she doesn't play a story role. She just pretty much is Twilight's guide for newbies who don't know how to play the game. So she'll continually poke fun at what's going on and break the fourth wall just because she can. But obviously within reason. It's not like he's going to bring in every reference just because we can. Like, it was pretty fun writing Pinkie Pie's line because we had to find that nice balance between what canon dictates and what Pinkie can do, and it was really fun. Like, writing the script for this game was really entertaining, despite the length it took to write it. But one of my favorite parts of the game by far.
And I mean, just talking a quick tangent about the writing of the script, you would also have to obviously write all of it's not just a story now that's controlled. It's based on all of the players and all the interactions with the different pieces of evidence. And you got to come up with all those different scenarios, and even the goofy situations where the person you're investigating doesn't know what to do with the evidence. You know?
Oh yeah, like we pretty much have a lot of situations. You're not going to get that generic, "Oh, I messed up. Let me try this again." No. For different pieces of evidence that are wrong in a confrontation, they will hear it from the opponent. They will get mocked. They'll get laughed at. They'll have different reactions to whatever you present for those scenarios.
That's great, because I know that was it was a complaint that some people had where, you know, sometimes the rejection notices that the characters would give in Phoenix Wright weren't always accurate, or you know, it didn't really lend itself. Sometimes you'd give a piece of evidence that you think would be it, but it was just a little bit off, or it wasn't the right time, and it was hard to tell when you'd already presented that evidence and the person seemed to not know what it was. So putting a little bit more effort into it seems like another kind of fan-made improvement.
We had a lot of fun with if you play the game yourself, maybe you should present the wrong evidence, maybe for a few Easter eggs here and there.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, I was looking through the forums, and I saw someone was like, it would be great if every item had like a different interaction, but that would take so long to write, and I would never expect anyone to like attempt that. But I saw that you did throw in a few Easter eggs there with the profiles and whatnot.
Yep. So every witness in the game will have something interesting to say. It's not just, "Oh, I don't know anything, go leave me alone," or "advance the plot." No, the side dialogue, we fill that to the brim with a lot of fun references to the show and stuff, and I do hope that you guys laugh at it as much as we did writing it, so can't wait to see the reactions of that. I think we threw in quite a few fun Easter eggs in there. Fun little tidbits.
That's great. It seems to address at least the main problem that I had with Phoenix Wright, which is just kind of the lack of depth in terms of that. They focused a lot on the case and the plot, but the environments and things like that sometimes lacked. You know, like when you were saying, when you present someone with a piece of evidence, they should kind of know a little bit about it. So, it's hard to make something completely fluid, because sometimes when you get cases that are just a million profiles and a million different scenarios that you can be in where character profiles are changing all the time, it's impossible to write stuff for every single one. But it's nice to have something a little bit more than just the binary, "I know about this, advance the plot," or "I don't know anything about this."
Pretty much.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about Pinkie Pie as a tutorial pony. Is that going to be your main way of introducing the elements of Phoenix Wright to new players, or how are you going to further introduce people who might not have ever heard of Phoenix Wright, not to mention played it, to this new game, because they might just be interested because, well, pony.
Right. Well, besides asking us questions on the forum, within the game, the tutorial is designed so you pretty much progress the way you want to progress through it. So let's say, you want to talk to Pony first, you'll get the tutorial about the pony first. Or if you want to examine evidence, you'll get that tutorial first. It's pretty much however the player plays the game, they'll encounter different tutorials as they advance. And when they feel like they heard enough or they get tired of Pinkie Pie, whatever, you can always turn off mid-game. And yeah, so it's not just going to be a bunch of force-fed information at the beginning. Like I know some games do. Like they tell you everything in the beginning, and then when it comes to it in the actual game, you're kind of like, I kind of forgot half of what you said. Help, please.
Right. Is there going to be something in the game, perhaps like not like a manual, but something similar to that if people do forget, they can turn to?
Good question.
Well, we have the forum, which has a lot of topics and threads for helping other people with their when they're stuck in the case, which is always like a little bit of a manual.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, and I know I know you definitely don't want to have, say, like a walkthrough, because games like this, especially Phoenix Wright games, are so easy to get frustrated and just want to go further because you're so invested in the story.
Well, we have someone with a walkthrough.
Oh, really?
Her name is Pinkie Pie.
But you know, one of the main attractions of the Phoenix Wright games is figuring it out finally. You know, after you spent an hour on this one point going, what did I miss? And then you finally figure it out, it's that much more satisfaction. Are you guys going to have like that kind of level of difficulty? Are you planning on, or maybe not for the first case, but maybe for the later cases, having some really difficult things to solve?
I think so. There'll be some situations where confrontations may take, like, it could be 4 or 6 topics at once. It could be a point in the case where one wrong piece of evidence may cost you the whole case, you know? Those sort of situations we like to bring back and implement. And as far as the logic in the case goes, like, we do plan on making each of the crimes more and more complex as they go on. And so naturally, with more complex cases, there'll be more things to solve, and thus it'll be hard for players to figure out. Whereas, you know, in case 1, it's more of a how done it rather than a who done it. So your task is mainly to find how this crime was committed more than who. But that was by design. And yeah, definitely expect the game to get harder as cases come along.
I was curious, like, with things like Phoenix Wright, I was playing it yesterday. I didn't really get stuck at all, like, logically, but there was at one point I didn't click on piece of papers on the edge of a table, and I was looking around, like, 6 or so different maps, just like, what am I missing? If you encounter something like this in MLI, is there a way around that? Like, if there was a casual, frustrated player like me?
Well, the good thing is, when you're in the field examining evidence, everything that's clickable will have a little name underneath it. So your cursor will change from a pointer to like an eye, which means examine. And above that eye will be like, you know, random rose bush, or front door to boutique, broken window, etc. So you'll know what to click on, what not to click on. It's not a pixel hunt like it was in previous Ace Attorney games.
That is very relieving to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wish I could have told you a little bit more about that walking in, Mahower, but I wanted you to experience all the game, including the frustration of how the heck I've clicked on everything.
Like, yeah, I was
What
just
is
like
going
sitting
on?
there in a room like, all right, there's no music playing. Yes, I can look out the window and there's sun coming in, but what do I need?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a part of the game, but
Yeah.
it was improved in later versions, like we're seeing here in MLI. So that's it's always a good thing to have improvements.
Indeed.
So Warpout, one last kind of question for you from an art side of things. Is there just kind of a multifaceted question, but you know, can you talk a little bit about the hardest and maybe the easiest things about working on this project, and maybe if you have some additional funny stories, then feel free to bring those up too.
Sure. Well, one of the most interesting things I've done was the main menu animation, because I've never really done something like that before, which was just where Takura just made this painting and it had to move. So how do you do this? Because he already made the painting, so he had to cut it up and add more color to it, because some things had to rotate and stuff. And I really spent a lot of time discussing with him what we should do and how we would tackle this, because it doesn't move a lot. It's just very subtle. So it's basically trying to replicate 3D with you've seen the main menu, right? Like,
Yep.
she's reading
Yeah.
her letter, so she's going from left to right, and that it's very subtle, which made it a little easier to animate with the paint style. But that was very interesting to do, because it's basically puppet animation, but with the paint style. It's really weird to say it like this, but if you actually have to do it, it's quite different from what you're used to. If you have a painting, you have a lot of gradients going from color to color, very smooth transitions. If you have pieces with gradients and you have to move them over each other, then it's really easy to see what are the different parts. Like if you have a leg that's supposed to move up and down on the shoulder side, you can see the line where it's disconnected from the body if it's not the same color. So we had to really think about, okay, maybe we should add some shadow here so that part isn't visible when it moves, and really went a lot of thinking into it.
If I may add a little bit, yeah, like all that you described Warpath, that was pretty awesome. Like how you made the picture come to life. It was almost like, it's hard to describe. It's fantastical, I want to say. I don't know. It was really cool. But something else I want to add is like your work with all the non-pony characters in Case 1 as well. Like I knew that was pretty interesting, or at least a big challenge to you when you went through that process.
Non-pony? Like the UI on, or?
No, like, you know.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that was quite difficult. Well, I guess we can say the name because it's...
Yes, the Diamond Dogs, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the Diamond Dogs. It was really... Well, I did the Diamond Dogs last. So basically the whole road was all pony. So I had this basic pony setup, and I just had to animate the manes and tails and eyes. And then I got like, here are the Diamond Dogs. Great, we have this weird perspective which the show never uses. How do I create this dogs in 3D? Let's have some reference looks. Oh, only one episode. Great!
Oh god.
Right.
So, I noticed, every shot that had a diamond dog in it, I watched and copy-pasted it into Photoshop and see how did they do it. And then I noticed that, damn it, Rover is the main one, right?
Rover's the leader, yeah, he's the medium-sized dog.
Rover has, in the show, in the A Dog and Pony show, only has one shot with a perfect side view face. The rest is all third quarter perspective or frontal perspective. Only one shot with a side view, and it sucks. So we made it, we tested it, and it just looked bad. So we decided to do it ourselves, and that came out pretty good. But I was really shocked that there was so little reference that I could use. We made 4 dogs: the guards, the Rover, Spot, and Fido, and the shape of the bodies are also they have these short hind legs and very long front legs, so they kinda if you have this perspective, like an angles perspective, if they look towards the camera, then you can see right over their back, and that was really hard to animate, because if you have your view right above the back, it's very small looking. You don't have this perspective to make it look like he's longer on the end, and there are a lot of body parts that you don't see. So if the Diamond Dog guard, for example, was walking towards you in that perspective, it was like this big round ball with a head on top and 2 arms. Nothing more.
Kind of like the Applejack crab thing.
Yeah, kind of something like that. So we had to think about how could we do this. Oh my god, why didn't we just stick with ponies? It is so much more work.
Not only did you have to learn one new anatomy, you had to learn 3 because those dogs are all completely different. That sounds
4,
really hard.
We had the guard as well.
Oh god.
And every character in MLI has 8 different directions, 3 of which can be copied. So you still have 5 directions you have to animate, which basically turns in 3D. With that little reference, it was kind of, it was fun, but challenging as well. Thanks for bringing that up, Zeus.
No problem, because I knew, for all these interviews we've been in, we never really brought any of the focus on the Diamond Dogs, so figured this would be the time to bring them up, because Diamond Dog, I like everything about the Diamond Dogs in this case. the voices for them, the writing we did for them, the way they're involved in the plot, everything. Like, it was fun to do something non-pony after like dealing with a lot of pony early on in the project. So,
and we struck gold with the voice.
Yeah, the voices are really, really good.
They have like a standout good performance as the Diamond Dog voices.
Like, I don't know if it has something to do with us hearing like the other voices, like I don't know,
often,
with 56 episodes for half an hour or whatever, but and we only heard the Diamond Dogs for a little bit of one episode, and that might have something to do with it. But regardless, they sound really, really good.
You do get a little snippet. In case people are wondering who haven't played the demo and are interested, it's not a spoiler. Trust me. You'll know the Diamond Dogs are in it within like the first 10 seconds of playing the game. So don't worry about that if you're thinking it's spoilers or anything.
It's really how they done it instead of who done it.
Who did it?
Yeah, that's a big thing in Phoenix Wright. Sometimes it's not always. Sometimes it is a little bit of who done it, and I'm sure in later cases you'll have a little bit of who done it.
Oh,
but,
for sure we will.
But it's in a lot of cases, such as the first case that you're doing for this one, it's more of how did they do it, and even once you figure that out, how do you bring up enough evidence to convict them of it, or at least clear your client of guilt.
Yeah.
That's it.
So just as a couple of finishing questions here, because we are running up on an hour now. You say on your website that the release date is targeted summer 2013. We are in summer 2013, so can you describe a little bit about what your release date is planning to be? Obviously, it's going to be sometime soon, as you mentioned before.
Yes, sometime soon. We plan to have this case out by the end of August, but don't hold us to that. But if not, it'll definitely be like within late August or September, like that time frame for release. Like, we're implementing like one more important feature right now to the case file, and then the rest is just easy implementation for the rest of our content because the content's been done for a while. Then we test it. Probably will take a week or so because we were planning on testing it earlier, but then Gab was like, no, let's get all these obvious things we will point out of the way and then we'll test it. So, yeah, like, don't hold us to it, but you guys will know when this case will be released, but it will be sometime soon. Our goal hopefully is by the end of August. If not, then a little bit more after that. And
right, if it's going to be longer, you'll probably announce it, right?
Yes, and yes, we'll definitely have a special little treat for when we announce the release date, and I'm sure you guys will like it when it's released.
I'm curious. Are you releasing these episodically, like the Walking Dead game series, like one case at a time, or are you just going to dump them all out at once?
It's going to be one case at a time.
That's cool.
So, case 1 coming out this year for sure. Case 2, hopefully sometime next year. We've started work on it, but we don't know how long that's going to take because we have to recruit voice actors and do all that fun stuff again. So,
and we've been in production for 2 years now, I think, or 2.5. So if we had to make every case first, I guess we could release in 4 years.
Maybe.
Is it easier working on or at least you guys haven't started yet? Is it going to be easier to work on the later cases because you've got some of the base assets,
yes.
or at least you've done it before?
We definitely have more experience, like what not to do for different cases, how we can avoid time-wasting obstacles. The artists are now familiar with the style and what we expect from them. Same with the music and sound guys. And
you've already got a bunch of the assets done.
Yeah, engine, pretty much very, very fully functional, complete. The only like programming heavy thing we'll do for case 2 will probably be a case creator, so that while fans wait for our cases, they can work on their cases and keep the content flowing.
And on the art side, I'll be trying to build a character creator.
Interesting.
So when you have the case creator, you can import your own OC via the Pony creator.
Okay, that sounds really cool. I'd like to go a little bit over time just to talk a little bit about that, because that sounds really interesting. So you guys are planning on having more user-generated content starting, maybe just as it's not confirmed, but just as maybe something you're working towards in case 2.
Well, we will definitely have a case editor somewhere down the line.
Right. That's your goal. That's really interesting because there hasn't been a lot of things like that. But it seems like nowadays that's where everybody's going, and it seems to be what everybody enjoys doing, which is user created content.
And to add on top of that, like we also do plan to release all of our assets. So if you want to use our music or artwork or whatever, it's not 100% confirmed, but we would like it to be available to everyone who wants to make their own cases with the case creator. So they have something to work with and not create everything from scratch like we did.
Oh, well, that sounds spectacular. That's definitely a huge plus from my perspective, and I'm sure a lot of users' perspective. But even from my perspective as a dev, that sounds like it's obviously quite hard to do. But user created content is really picking up right now, and it seems like it's the go-to thing to do.
Yeah, and I really look forward to see what people can come up with, especially for people who just are very skilled in writing, but they don't want to draw anything, they just want to pretty much use what we have and create a new case with that setting, then by all means, they should go right ahead. That would be interesting to see and do.
Sounds like you're making it very accessible, which is exactly what user-created content should be.
Right.
Accessible.
Right.
All right. Well, that sounds great. I'm going to have to end this, unfortunately, even though we probably have a lot more questions. But if people want to find you for more information about the cases, if they want to keep up with your work and other things like that, where can we find you guys individually and you guys as a group?
You can follow us on our blog page and the forums at www.equestriandreamers.com. And
okay, so that's your website for the entire project.
Yes.
You've got things there. You've got downloads for demos, which are out. You've got videos for the panels that you've done. You've got an FAQ. You've got the team. Everything is on there.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I definitely would recommend that people, because we have one artist and one organizer on here today, but there's a bunch of different people. So if you're interested in who's working on the project, they've got a team page, which is equestriandreamers.com/the-team, the-team. Which is also on their website. So I would definitely go check that out because they got a bunch of people working on this project.
All very good.
Mm-hmm. We also have our own YouTube channel. So if you want to check out our archive engine demonstrations and gameplay teasers and all that stuff, and even a finished music track, it's all on there as well.
And that is
our YouTube. It's just Equestrian Dreamers, I believe.
Okay, so it should be the same thing, youtube.com/equestriandreamers.
I believe so. I'm going to double check that. Right.
Do you guys have anything like a social media aspect, like a Twitter or anything like that?
We do not.
So if people wanted to see any updates about things such as the release date when you plan it out, that would be just through your website, correct?
Right, through our website. Definitely a front page topic.
That sounds cool. And so Warp-Out, you as an artist, obviously you've got like a DeviantArt account and stuff, right?
Yeah. My DeviantArt is just Warp-Out. If you search, you'll definitely find it. And my YouTube channel is also Warp-Out. I'm also working on the Lullaby for a Princess project. Don't know if you've seen it already, but that's something a little big project I'm doing, which can also be found on my YouTube channel. And
okay, cool.
Somewhere along the line, I'll definitely be posting some things about MLI as well. Some maybe behind the scenes or something.
That'd be really cool. We really encourage behind the scenes stuff, kind of how-to videos and things like that on the show. More artists should do that because I feel like there is a huge population of people out there who want to see behind the scenes in art, but not a lot of people have do that kind of stuff or think about it. So if you do that, I know people will enjoy that, especially with a project kind of like Equestrian Dreamers. Gamers are known to be voracious about their appetite for behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, most def. I still have to talk with Gabby if we're going to release like work in progress sounds or work in progress artwork and stuff, because I've had to look through a ton of sketches and a lot of them had pretty funny expressions. So maybe we might post them like once one's released, so we don't run into the risk of spoiling the case or something.
Right. And Zeus. I mean, we talked about Warp-Out stuff, but do you have any place in particular, or are you just kind of based around MLI?
MLI is pretty much what I'm known for online. The only thing I do have is obviously just a Skype account, but I try to be selective about who I have as friends. There's so many people online.
Right.
Right. But yeah, this is pretty much the only dev, artsy, creative thing I do. normally I'm just a gamer or I'm studying mechanical engineering at my university. So that's pretty much it for me. I don't have anything to show, sadly.
Cool. Well, if people do want to talk to you, then again, there's the whole website, which is a great idea to just kind of have a general website, make things a little bit easier and more general for people to just come into and go, okay, here's where you go for all of the information. It's a great idea.
Right, and to show that, hey, we're alive, we're not dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Very important these days.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for coming on. It was a lot of fun to have you guys on, and I know both of us are really excited to see this come out.
Thanks for having us.
Can't wait.
And if I may say so, it's very nice to have a project that is going to be coming out soon. A lot of people do their promotional material and we're here, oh yeah, it'll be done in a year. We just had Children of the Night on for the second time. We talked to them a year ago and they said, oh yeah, it'll be out in a year or something. And I mean, it did get done and we did get to interview them about it, but it's nice to hear something where it's like, we're going to be interviewing them and then it's coming out next month, you know? It's good to get the hype up and then give them something.
That's the point. We want you guys to be excited about this, and we can't wait as much as you guys can't wait to see this project finally come to light.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks for coming on, both of you guys. It was a lot of fun to have you on.
A great pleasure meeting you two.
All right. Well, it's too bad you couldn't meet our other guys. I'm sure you would have enjoyed them too, but they're off having fun and/or sick. So
having fun, are they?
Yeah. Two of them are off enjoying life, and then the other one's sick. But yeah. So that's it for you guys. Mahauer. So I was gonna do something this week to just kind of put you in a really awkward position.
Oh.
I was gonna make you try and see if you could remember the plugs.
Oh God, why?
Because you're not on the show normally, so you don't have to do this. But I thought it'd be fun to make you do the plugs. So can you remember all the different Cutie Art Crusaders plugs?
Well, there's a DeviantArt. There's a DeviantArt.
What else?
Oh my God, I know. There's a Twitter. There's
right. Okay. What's the Twitter handle?
Cutie Art Crusaders at Twitter.
No. Okay. Okay.
I don't have Twitter. I mean, I don't know.
There's a DeviantArt, so we have cutieartcrusaders.deviantart.com. We also have Twitter, which is at Cutie Art Crusade. We have a Facebook, youtube.com, or facebook.com/Cutie Art Crusaders. And we have an email. If you guys have any questions or comments or things like that, you can hit us up on our email, which is cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com. And as I mentioned last week, which you will know about this one, Mahauer, because I mentioned it, or not last week. Was it last week?
Maybe.
Yes, it was last week when you were on. We mentioned the new YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Cutie Art Crusaders. So any of those places, get updated there or see some more behind the scenes stuff on the YouTube. We haven't really posted that much on the YouTube, but that's only because both Burned and Flutter Guy are kind of away right now. But when they get back, we're going to have a bunch of stuff. We're planning on putting out stuff like bloopers soon on the YouTube channel. So definitely look forward to that, and we'll remind you on the podcast. So yeah, that's basically it for this week, guys. Thanks again to our guests for coming on. And thank you to Mahauer for filling in last minute notice. Again, it was fun having you on.
Anytime.
You cheeky little devil, 2 weeks in a row. I don't think anybody else has done that before. But you happen to be in the right place at the right time twice, so there you go. So yeah, that's it for the podcast. Thank you guys for watching, whether or not you're on YouTube or the live stream. We love you all the same. My name is Rainbow Plasma.
I'm Mahauer.
I'm Zeus Assassin.
I'm Warpout.
And we'll see you guys next week.
See ya!
Bye!